From the land of lakes, this is 10,000 Takes. Brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week and a brand new month as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. And Wally, normally when we get to June, Major League Baseball, the Twins would be front and center. But it's all about martial law today, because we're going to talk about the loss of Jim Marshall, the iconic Minnesota Viking, who he was durable, he was talented, he was smart, he showed up every week ready to play. His teammates fed off of his energy, and he was a purple people eater. Enough said.
Yeah, and we lost him earlier this week at the age of 87, and you know what a terrific player he was, a leader for the Vikings. But let me say this before we go any further. And this is the first thing that came to my mind when I heard that he passed away. It's time for the voting for the Hall of Fame to change things up. Because, you know, there's going to be a lot of sentiment now, Eric, to get Jim Marshall into the Hall of Fame. There's been a push by the Vikings and so on and so forth. But there's going to be sentiment now that he's passed away. Well, what is the bloody point of doing that at this juncture? He's gone. Let's get these guys in. If they deserve to be in, get them in while they're still alive so they can enjoy it with their families, and it can be part of, you know, why they were nominated in the first place, right? It just drives me crazy. We're going to have Chuck Foreman on, who played with Jim Marshall for several years, actually his entire Viking career with the Vikings. But this drives me nuts, and that's another guy that needs to get in. Let's get these guys in now. If they deserve to be in, get them in while they're alive.
And they do, and it's been a miscarriage of NFL justice for really 3 decades now. This should have happened many moons ago, and I can't believe it hasn't happened. And don't hold 4 Super Bowl losses against Jim Marshall or 3 against Chuck Foreman, because a lot of those guys from the Buffalo Bills who were 0-4 are in the Hall of Fame. Example, Bruce Smith, who played the same position as Jim Marshall, and Bruce belongs in. I want to make sure I make that clear. Right. So, yes, to your point, it's very unfortunate. And when I think of Jim Marshall, I think of a 4-wheel drive football player. He would thrive in any kind of weather conditions. Boy, there's one NFL Films clip. You know I'm an NFL Films junkie. I've seen it all a million times on an endless loop, where he's standing there on the sideline and his voice is under the video, and it's one of those December playoff games, and the sun is sinking behind that huge scoreboard at the old Met, and he says, we knew when the sun went down and it even got colder that the opponent was toast. And boy, that was Jim Marshall. That was the Minnesota Vikings when they played in the elements.
Well, and the durability of Jim Marshall says it all. You know, 270 straight starts. Yeah. I mean, he held the NFL record until he was eventually passed by Brett Favre. And I think he's still the only non-quarterback to have strung together the long-term success of being on the field every single game for however many years. That was 19 years. It's just ridiculous to think about that.
As a young fan back then, I'm thankful there was no free agency, because if there was, the purple people eaters, the steel curtain, the doomsday defense, the fearsome foursome, the orange crush never would have lasted beyond 4 or 5 years. So they had to stay together because they couldn't move.
Yeah, they would have all found different places.
Huge paydays.
Huge paydays, yes. All right, we are going to talk more Jim Marshall, more purple people eaters with our friend Chuck Foreman.
We are 10K Takes, your purple people eaters ticket.
Seeing clearly matters. Being seen matters more. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
In Lakeville, Minnesota, dozens of meeting venues are ready to host your next corporate event, banquet, and holiday party. Lakeville has unique conference facilities, a variety of hotels, an abundance of team-building options, and dining that are sure to impress. For suggestions that suit your needs, please call the Lakeville Convention and Visitors Bureau at 952-469-2020 or go to visitlakeville.org. Lakeville, we mean business.
And we are 10,000 Takes. And as we discussed a little bit earlier, the loss of Jim Marshall this week on Tuesday, a big loss for the Minnesota Vikings family. And Nobody knows what Jim Marshall meant to the Minnesota Vikings of the 1970s than this guy, Chuck Foreman. Chuck, longtime teammate of Jim Marshall, the guy they called the captain. He was a captain of the squad for 14 years, 270 straight games, and on and on and on it goes for Jim Marshall. When you hear the name Jim Marshall, when somebody brings that name up to you, Chuck, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
He was the greatest Viking of all time.
Mm.
And when I say that, I mean, there's a lot of great players. When I say greatest Viking, that entails a lot of different things. His leadership, his commitment, his intensity, his everything about him was being a Viking. You know, he set the standard of, he was classy, he was smart, you know, he professional, everything that you would want in a leader, he had. And you know, he was a great football player, no question about it. He's a part of of course, the Purple People Eaters. I remember when I first saw, you know, Jim got in the league in 1961. I was 11 years old. So when I got to the Vikings and I stepped on that field and I'm seeing the Purple People Eaters, I was like intimidated, kind of like, wow, I'm here, and I'm here at the NFL, but I'm here with these guys. And so when you step from where I was, from the University of Miami, up into that level, and even though I played with some great football players at the All-Star game, that was nothing. When I stepped on that when I got to the Minnesota Viking training camp, I was a little, I wouldn't say intimidated, but I was definitely just wondering, like it was like that, wow, am I really here? Kind of feeling, you know, with all these great players here that I saw and watched on TV. And now I'm in the huddle with them. And a few years earlier, I was 11 years old watching these guys in the NFL. So it was eye opening, and I got blessed to be drafted by a great team with some great leadership, some great coaches, and Bud Grant was their coach. I got really lucky to be drafted by a team with so many great professionals.
Chuck,
And Jim was right.
tell us about Jim Marshall's zest for life. He skydived. He went on a snowmobile trip in Wyoming with Jim Klobuchar, and they had to burn money to survive in a blizzard. He played defensive end in an era of the NFL when you could actually use a head slap and the old lineman could punch you in the gut. The guy had a zest for life, didn't he?
He certainly did. He lived life to the fullest. So there's 87 years old, but he lived it the way he wanted to live it. He enjoyed every aspect of it. You know, and it's to be able to have had somebody touch you like that in life. And then he asked, you know, with the football I played, and I learned about Jim way before I got here because my agent played with Jim in Cleveland. His name was John Wooten, and he explained to me who Jim Marshall was. And there's one thing he told me: look, this guy is made of something different. Don't even think that you could keep up with him, because he was relentless in everything that he did. Smart, set the standard. He came to work every day. He practiced hard every day. He played hard every game. Wasn't the biggest guy at his position, but you know, certainly an effective player for many, many years.
What was Jim Marshall like in the locker room at halftime or before the game? Was he a rah-rah type of guy? Was he a lead by example type of guy? What do you think of when you think of those situations with Jim Marshall?
I think with Jim is more lead by example. I mean, he'd come and, you know, he had a way of getting you ready because all you had to do is look in his eyes prior to the game and you could see there's a certain level of mental preparedness that you got to have to play on at any level. But at that level, everything else has to go out, and only that game has to be in everything that you're going to do. You can't let anything in. I never learned what that was until I actually got here on the professional level. There's just a zone that you can get to And Jim was able to do that, and he was able to help everybody else get to that place. And that place was, you just totally focus on your assignment. You totally focus on the game. Nothing else could come in. You couldn't even hear the crowd roar. You were so focused.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that he brought to me that I observed. And, all he had to do is look you in the eyes to see if you were ready. And because you knew he was. And so you looked at him and you knew you had to get yourself mentally in that space. He was unlike any other human being that I've ever met.
Was Jim Marshall the perfect extension of Bud Grant? I feel like he was a coach on the field, and the durability. I mean, every week he was there, he showed up, and you know better than anybody, Chuck. Bud valued high intelligence guys and durability. And Jim had it all, didn't he?
I think Jim had all that. He brought a lot to the table with him. Bud did not have to coach a team. Jim and the leadership of that team set the standard as to how you had to prepare for a game, how you had to commit to play the game. I think him and Bud had a unique relationship, and he was the best guy to have to do that job here in Minnesota. That statue they have out there, they don't need to put any more out there because there's not going to be anybody come in here to do what Jim Marshall did.
On a lighter side, Jim Marshall, of course, infamous, if you will, for the wrong way touchdown. When he was asked, or when you talked about that, or when you talked to him about that, what did Jim Marshall say? How did he explain that, or how did he have fun with that once that whole thing was over?
I never touched it. I thought that might be something you never want to talk to him about. But I think he took it in stride. I like the guy he was, the wrong way touchdown. I mean, after a while hearing that, I think it kind of gets may get on you, maybe rub you the wrong way. But Jim was a good sport about it.
Yeah.
Chuck, the Purple People Eaters, I mean, to this very day, I feel like their legend keeps growing. I know you played with them and you know them very well, but I see the shirts, I see the jackets, the jerseys with all the numbers on them. It's pretty cool stuff. I mean, I love the Purple People Eaters, and I know you do too.
I certainly do. I mean, the greatest name ever for a defense, for football, anybody, for a group of guys, the Purple People Eaters, I think, anyway. But all of them were great players, unique in their own special way. And probably in my opinion anyway, the greatest group or the greatest defensive line to play in our era. I mean, in our era, the greatest. Now, guys are bigger, different, and all that now. But when I'm talking about, there was none better. Yeah. None better. You had Carl L., you had Jim Marshall, you had Alan Page, you had Gary Larson. Every one of them had something different that they were great at, but it all came together to make a great defensive line.
Yeah. Well, Chuck, we certainly appreciate the perspective of yours on Jim Marshall and his terrific career. Hopefully someday Hall of Fame career, and we'll talk about more about that at length at a different time. Yeah.
Yeah, well, to speak on that.
Yeah, we will. We will. We'll get on that on a different time for sure, Chuck, because that's
all I'm going to say is this. The Hall of Fame needs to regroup about how they select. Right. That's what I'm going to say. If you don't know if a guy's in there qualified in and put him in, that's what I'm going to say about Jim Marshall and everybody else that deserves to be in.
Couldn't agree more.
No argument.
We're out of time. You in too. All right. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Chuck.
All right.
Here's Chuck Foreman, former Viking great, here on 10,000 Takes. Stay with us. We're back with more after this time.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Finding the ideal place to stay is important for business travelers. Lakeville, Minnesota is conveniently located off I-35, just south of the Twin Cities, with a variety of hotel choices. Lakeville offers convenient amenities such as shopping, walking trails, golf, and more. Our unique meeting spaces, historic downtown, live music, and over 60 dining options are sure to impress. Book your next stay in Lakeville and experience convenience, comfort, and quality. Find your perfect hotel at visitlakeville.org.
And we are Minnesota Scores 10,000 Takes, and we're going to talk some hockey now. Ladies hockey, the Minnesota Frost winning that PWHL championship for the second straight year, Eric. And they didn't make it easy on themselves. They, of course, barely got into the postseason. Then, boy, I tell you, once they get into the playoffs, it's no holds barred.
Juggernaut.
Juggernaut. And we are joined now by Kelly Panic. She has been part of the Minnesota Frost, both of their championship teams, and she joins us now. Kelly, tell me I know you've had success at the high school level, certainly at the college level at the University of Minnesota with the Olympic team, but tell me what this meant to you, winning a couple straight PWHL titles.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think for all those other things, I think college is really special, high school special, obviously. International experience is kind of in a different world, but I think what's really cool about winning the Walter Cup for a professional team and in a city, you have like your local fan base that has shown up for you all season, and to be able to get to celebrate with them in maybe a different way than you could in college is pretty cool. And yeah, it's a great place to play, and we're really thankful to our fans. So be able to win in front of them and celebrate with them is really special.
Kelly, did you expect the PWHL to grow this quickly? Two teams are coming on board next season, Vancouver and Seattle. There's been neutral site games in places like Denver and Detroit, and we're talking crowds of 17, 18,000. So there's an appetite for the PWHL. Did you think it would happen this soon?
I don't know. I think we knew like the product that we had, and if people just gave us a chance to show off what we could do on the ice, we knew people were going to show up in the seats. So I think it's just a testament to that and to the ownership group, the Walter family, Billie Jean King, them recognizing the opportunity that they have in front of them. And yeah, then those tour games that had thousands of people show up and chants of "We want a team," I think just made them really excited for the opportunities. And at the end of the day, it's great that the league's growing, and it's great that more women will have opportunities to play professionally, and it's just an exciting time to be a part of women's hockey.
How much do you think the U.S. versus Canada in the World Championships, and of course in the Olympics more specifically, helped draw attention to your sport, or to the PWHL in particular? Because I know for one thing, when I watch those U.S.-Canada games, you're just locked in on this. I know regular season PWHL games, it's not the same, but I think that there's got to be some carryover. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think for a long time, it's been the international stage that has tried to propel women's hockey forward. And the hard part about it is not everyone's tuned into the World Championship schedule or to the friendly schedule with our rivalry series with Canada and whatnot. But what I think it really is too is like then the Olympics, it's every 4 years. So people are locked in. There's a lot of hype and excitement, and then it's not around for another 4 years, right? So I think it's really cool, I think, to see now, because like when I'm out and about at a hockey rink around the state, people ask like, "Oh, you're on the Minnesota Frost." And we were at a international, rivalry series event, and I was wearing a USA jersey. There was a group of us on the ice, like helping me do a clinic, and the girls were like, "Wait, do you guys play in the professional league?" And we're like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh my gosh, what?" They know about it. And so I think, as much as anything too, I think it's just a really cool like back and forth between the two. And I think the consistency and the marketing that the league is able to push things forward. And I think the accessibility, especially in the U.S., every game is on YouTube right now, so everyone can stream them for free. Like, what a great opportunity that you don't have to have an app or a certain streaming service to view the games in the U.S. And I think that accessibility is really important.
Kelly, do you, your teammates, your opponents in the PWHL, do you view yourself as trailblazers in the sense that, hey, 3 years ago, there was no professional hockey for young female players who wanted to get paid to play, but now it's there. Again, like I said earlier, it seems to be growing. You may not want to admit it, but you're a trailblazer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think looking back on it might feel more so. I think now just trying to stay in the moment. And I think, really for me, I played only a couple years out of college without having a true league to play in. And you look at someone like Hillary Knight or Kendall Coyne Schofield or, some of the women on the Canadian side as well that have been doing it for 10 plus years. And to think of all the athletes that have stuck around for 3, 4, 5 years after graduating college, waiting for this opportunity and pushing for it. I think that's really the trailblazers. And to me, what I always really appreciate, there's obviously always a ton of young girls with signs about being a future PWHL star or whatever it is. I think it's really cool to see maybe the ladies that, were maybe at the start of Title IX or past their playing careers. They're like, I'm so excited to be able to be a fan of this. This is something I would have killed to be a part of as a player, as an athlete. But what a treat it is to be a fan. And I think that's really special too. And it's again a reminder of, obviously on the hockey side, there's so many, incredible athletes that have come before us that have kind of been a part of the building blocks to get us to this point. But also just in women's sports in general, I think having Billie Jean King as a part of our league is just a huge example of the amount of women's sports that she has impacted. It's just an insane list. And so we're really grateful to have her to have her be a part of our league as well. And just keep pushing this forward so that all the girls that are, entering high school now, they'll still have, this to look forward to.
Fly in the ointment. As Eric mentioned a few moments ago, there's 2 new teams coming into the PWHL, as we know, Seattle and Vancouver, which means these teams your team's not going to be the same next season. Heck, you might not be part of the team. I see that the 3 protected players, you're not on that list. What are your feelings about all this, about the change that's going to happen?
Yeah, I think it made, honestly, last week and winning with our team really special. We found out about the expansion rules really during playoffs. So I think our group did just such an incredible job of, setting that aside and focusing on what we still could accomplish together, understanding that, one, you never know when you get the chance to compete for a Welter Cup. And we definitely know that this team is going to look very different. And it's kind of one of those things, and our coach, he'd said it, our GM had said it, this is unfortunately pro sports, and what a great opportunity is to add jobs for players. Also understanding that it's uncertainty, and there's definitely, if you asked our staff, and I think a lot of, teams around the league, they would agree that you wish you could protect more people, but it's just the way it is. And I don't take it personally. I think Kendall, Lee, and Heisey are great players, and they're great people. And it's kind of a bittersweet thing. And for me, there's just so much that's not within my control. And, whatever happens, and we'll have to take it from there. But it really has been such a treat to play for my hometown team and be a part of 2 championships. And it was really fun to celebrate with our team before everyone kind of dispersed for the off season as well.
You grew up in the Twin Cities. You know the DNA in this sports market. On the male side of things, not so good. Are you aware of the narrative? Do you hear it? Hey, at least the Frost are bringing home championships. The Lynx have 4, and they're off to a fabulous start this season. Do you feel like you gals are carrying the entire state on your back?
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like even back to college when we were having some success with the Gophers, I think it was kind of the same. It felt like in college, even a lot of the women's sports were pretty dominant. When I was there, volleyball was really good. I feel like other teams, the soccer team was competitive, really pretty competitive when we were there as well. Softball was great. So we always kind of joked even in college that the women were carrying, and that's when the Lynx were winning. And yeah, it's pretty fun. It'd be really fun too if the men's sports, keep kind of trending in the direction they're trending, and just an exciting time to be a Minnesota sports fan.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Kelly, first and foremost, congratulations on your success, particularly with the Frost in winning your 2nd title. And we hope that you still are wearing a Frost uniform next year when this all thing shakes out here in the next week or so.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Kelly.
She's Kelly Panic. She is part of the Minnesota Frost team that has won 2 straight PWHL titles. That's the Walter Cup. Here on 10,000 Takes, Eric and I will be back with more after this timeout. Stay with us.
Finding the ideal place to stay is important for business travelers. Lakeville, Minnesota is conveniently located off I-35, just south of the Twin Cities, with a variety of hotel choices. Lakeville offers convenient amenities such as shopping, walking trails, golf, and more. Our unique meeting spaces, historic downtown, live music, and over 60 dining options are sure to impress. Book your next stay in Lakeville and experience convenience, comfort, and quality. Find your perfect hotel at visitlakeville.org.
Wally and Eric from 10,000 Takes here in the land of lakes. And if you want sports of all sorts, check us out. We cover all the bases, all the teams in the great state of Minnesota.
Vikings, Twins, Wild, Gophers, Timberwolves, Loons, you name it, we do it. Late night Saturday night on Fox 9 Plus and on the Fox local app.
Seeing clearly matters. Being seen matters more. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
$10K Takes on television as we wrap up yet another episode. Big shout out to the folks in the Twin Ports, here in the Twin Cities, all up and down that I-35 corridor. And they're going to find out what your mood is. Is it more June gloom and doom? What is it this week?
Well, have you ever heard of a guy by the name of Austin Jones?
I have.
And for all the wrong reasons, I might add. Yes, Austin Jones, Major League Baseball umpire, has the distinction of throwing Carlos Correa out of a Major League Baseball game for the first time in his somewhat lengthy career now. Yes, Carlos in Seattle last Saturday night was making comments from the on-deck circle. Nothing vile, nothing profane, nothing like that. Well, Austin Jones had heard enough of it, turned around. This is while Brooks Lee was batting, and Brooks Lee said afterwards he was happy that Carlos was going to bat for him, so to speak. But Austin Jones turned around and gave him the old heave-ho, and of course Rocco Baldelli was soon to follow. Look, Major League Baseball umpires have to realize, and Austin Jones, if you're listening, listen hard. This isn't about you. Yes, you have a name now, but this isn't about you. Fans come to the ballpark to watch the players, specifically a star like Carlos Correa. So grow some skin, thicker skin that is, because if you're going to continue down this path, you won't be umpiring many Major League games down the road.
No, got rabbit ears. All right, the mood meter says, oh, yes, indeed, a grumpy guardian. All right, hard to disagree.
Ridiculous.
Okay, it is very rare when I compliment the Chicago Bears. But I'm going to give Ryan Poles and the new head coach Ben Johnson credit. They have brought in Case Keenum. He's either going to be QB2 or QB3 to basically tutor Caleb Williams, because the coaches can only spend so much time with Caleb because of the the bargaining agreement. But Case Keenum can be with him all he wants. And he did a good job with C.J. Stroud in Houston. So where I'm going with this is Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell, and you guys do your job very well. But I can't believe you're going to take us into Egan in training camp without a legitimate QB2 who would be Case Keenum-like. He did play here, oh, by the way, Minneapolis Miracle. And I know there's still time left, and I believe KOC and KAM will figure it out, and they'll get a veteran quarterback in here, because if you pin it all on J.J. McCarthy, that's a big roll of the dice, if you ask me.
Yeah, especially with that injury he's coming off of.
All right, we got to go. We'll say goodbye, and thanks so much for joining us. We are 10K Takes, your sports ticket.